Welcome back, Commander. Though it may not know it yet, the galaxy is under threat, and to combat this threat, 2 idiots must do some extreme gardening. The game is Mass Effect, and this is the N7 Project.
Status report.
Well, how are things going with you, Zach?
They're going pretty well. Can't complain since we spoke 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm still mired in the labyrinth of trying to buy a graphics card in 2022.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Thoughts and prayers, buddy.
Yeah, it literally is getting to the point where like sort of thinking about buying like a whole PC instead. It's like,
yeah.
Those people still get graphics cards, I guess. But yeah, my at least I was smart enough that a few years ago I bought a 1060 before my 730 or 760 or whatever it was that I had completely died. I was like, you know what? I should go ahead and upgrade right now. And I'm so glad I did, because otherwise I would be much farther back in the queue on like proper graphics card.
Yeah. I just recently bought a laptop, and it came with a GTX 3060. I'm very much enjoying having a little bit more graphical processing power.
Yeah. That's one of the things that's it's not keeping me from working in Wonder, but it is making it just a little bit rougher to like, because I really want to use, I'm more interested in the Cycles render engine rather than the EV render engine. And Cycles is much more graphically intensive and really, really benefits from having a good GPU. But, and also is like even optimized for it, like the denoising systems and like, thinking about like trying to figure out animation and stuff. I really want to do some like in an ideal world, I want to make like web animations that look like 90s pixel art, like the cutscenes from like X-Wing and like TIE Fighter and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So like I've been looking around to like how people use various shaders and stuff to kind of emulate the pixel art look. It seems like it's doable. I may have to learn a bit more math, but whenever you get into shader stuff, it's like, oh yeah, I need to do calculations for this shit.
Yeah, I just recently saw, I don't know if it was on the Unity 3D subreddit or the Blender subreddit, but there was some guy who did a really cool like pixel shader rendering on his 3D scene.
Yeah.
Where it just kind of created like that pixel art effect. And then they threw a dither effect on top of that, which is just really cool.
That's rad. Yeah. That's the same sort of like aesthetic that I've been doing when I try to do After Effects and Photoshop work lately, is like just really limit your color palette and really limit like the visual information that you're allowed. At least for me, allows me to make more interesting visual images. Like when everything's all opened up to you and you could do whatever you want, then you tend to be boring. It's like when you restrict yourself that things become like better. So, all right. Yeah. Well, let's get into our mission debrief.
Mission debrief.
First of all, the most important question. Can you file a complaint with company HR when your boss sacrifices you to a giant evil sentient plant? Poor Shiala. All right. Heading back to Zhu's Hope, our friend Lisbeth hitches a ride, but as you pass the refugee outpost, she hears her mother over the radio and jumps out to see what the fuss is about. You follow and find that the Exogeny is planning on killing everyone involved and keep their experiments under wraps. Talking to Lisbeth's mom reveals that while the colonists are under the control of Thorian, it may not be necessary to kill them, but you have to use grenades. You have been buying all of the grenade capacity upgrades up until this point, haven't you? Otherwise, it's going to be hard. Unless you're on PC and remember the init grenades, just saying. Driving back to Zhu's Hope, the place is overrun by Thorian creepers. That you can kill these guys with impunity, but you need to save the colonists by lobbing your special anti-Thorian gas grenades at them. Or just shoot them, whatever. I'm not your boss. Fighting your way to the center of the colony, you're confronted by Phi Den, who is trying to fight the infection. He does put up a good, if terminal, struggle. Moving the crashed Fader out of the way, you reveal the Thorian's lair. The Thorian is big, like big. And as you approach, it reverse vores out a green Asari, who acts as its mouthpiece. Note, this will be a theme. The Thorian tells you that it's mad that people are encroaching on its planet and it's going to kill you. But Shepard's never met anything that they can't kill, so you blast your way through the place, laying down the Thorian creepers and green Asari clones the whole way through, eventually blowing enough chunks out of this Audrey 2 knockoff that it shrivels up and dies like every houseplant I've ever had. The original Asari, Shiala, comes gunking out and explains that Saren met with the Thorian and received something called the Cipher, the ancestral knowledge of all Protheans, which will allow him to interpret the beacon's vision and find out where the conduit is. Shiala shares the cipher by mind melding with Shepard and then decides to stay to help the colony recover. So this is the real meat of the plot here, where you get to meet the Thorian and have a little discussion with it. And it's like, it describes itself as ancient and like this is its home planet, and it is apparently encompasses the entire planet in some way. Like it kind of has its feelers or vines out through it. And then you got to kill a bunch of stuff. And
lucky for you, you just happen to land and arrive at the place that has the 6 little nodes that will destroy this planet-wide creature.
Yeah, except that it is the central hub of the creature, and they did put the colony here on purpose so that the people would be living on top of it. So, I mean, like, I guess that kind of works. Okay, so how successful are you ever at like saving the colonists? Do any of them ever make it with you?
I managed to save all of them this time.
Oh, great.
I think so. You're supposed to save 16, right?
Yes.
I remember it was either 16 or 17.
It's 16.
Okay, yeah. I ended up with, I worried because I threw a grenade and I thought I hit like a barrel, which took out some, but yeah, I managed to save 16, so.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's only really important later on in the later games, but not even that important, just a little important. But it also for your current playthrough, it's relevant because saving them gives you more Paragon points than killing them. I went ahead and saved them this time around because I honestly want for plot reasons rather than the Renegade versus Paragon thing. But you can, if you're being a renegade, just feel free to just fucking waste everybody in the head. It's fine.
I will say, the first time I played through, I didn't realize you had to socket in that anti-Thorian mod into your grenade. So I was just chucking grenades at civilians and wondering why my counter kept going down.
That's good. I do appreciate the like slight twist on gameplay changing that they did with that. This is one of the times where that actually is enough of a restriction on what you can do to make that firefight a lot more interesting. That like these guys are shooting at you. You do need to lay waste to them, but you have to resource manage your grenades. They're also not going to be the same grenades that you've been used to up until this point, because if you've socketed in one of the other ones, you might be more reliant on them. Although I do wish that if there had been maybe some sort of hint that you should have your capacity upgrades up until that point, because if I have ended up in the situation where I wasn't paying a lot of attention and didn't buy, because if you don't need grenades, you may not be buying the metagel and capacity and grenade upgrades up until that point, and you might be stuck with 5 grenades, which is the default amount, and that is a much harder thing to get through.
I will say, the first time you come back in the base, like right on the right-hand side, there's a crate that has a full restock of grenades. Yeah,
but it's that you have, I guess you could retrace and go grab them. It's mostly that you just, if you don't have a lot of them, that you can totally carry, and maybe you're not super great with aiming them at exactly the right spot that they need to be. If you waste a couple of them, you can get real short real quick if you haven't already bought a couple of them. Now, anybody who's playing the game seriously will probably have gotten those anyway. But as somebody who has on various occasions hacked in themselves the best armor and weapons in the game, and then never bothered to look at another vendor for the rest of Mass Effect 1, that can bite you in the ass. In which case, opening the console and typing init grenade number will get you the current number of grenades back up to the top, and you can just have essentially an infinite supply if you want to say get through it when you've been screwed over by your own previous hacking behaviors.
Hacking just leads to more hacking, my friend.
So how do you feel about the Thorian fight itself?
I like the creep factor of like having to walk past those immobile creep, or what do they call them? Thorian creepers. That don't react until you do something, and like just waiting for them to jump out at you.
That is cool. I do wish that you had some sort of ability to take care of them ahead of time. You really have to trigger them. They're invulnerable until they're triggered. Which I like it because you do have to, like, it does work, makes you have to worry about getting enveloped. But as somebody who has been a careful game player in the past, sometimes like that can be a bit annoying that you're like, there is no way to take care. Like the guys are right there. I have grenades, like it would be nice to just take them out. But I definitely like the fact that the place is kind of overrun with them. I actually really like the overall, this as a boss fight for Mass Effect 1 on the Mass Effect 1 scale of boss fights. This is actually one of my higher ones because the gameplay, the layout is pretty good. It moves over a relatively large section of that map. I think the Thorian Creepers area is, or the Thorians layer is as big as some of the rest of the Feros map. Like it gets as big as Zhu's Hope and the other tunnels kind of combined. Just because even though it's a spiral, it's a single like thing, but you do cover a lot of ground, which is nice.
Yeah, it felt like that definitely felt like a boss monster. Like with that central hub that you're that central creature node or whatever that you're going around.
Yeah.
I would have liked for it to be a little more active. Like if it was like lobbing slime or goo or spores at you or whatever, I think that would have been an interesting way to spice up the combat.
Yeah. Like if it's releasing gas or something that is actually, that'd be kind of cool. Cause I think you move up over the course of the level. If it had been releasing like a spore gas or something that caused you damage, that was creeping its way up the level, forcing you to keep on the move in order to stay ahead of the gas. That could be really cool. You could improve it, but as far as Mass Effect 1 boss fights go, I think it's one of my preferred ones. I like the introduction of the clones, Shiala clones.
Yeah,
I honestly
also gross.
Yeah, they're gross. I also just I think green's a good color for the Asari. Honestly, like I kind of dig.
Yeah, it is.
Her color scheme is like a nice color scheme. Also, the nodes, when you end up shooting the nodes, maybe it's just my power level alert, but I didn't find myself sitting there like waiting a really long time to knock those things out. Like I feel like they took the correct number of hits for me to like wail on them out, as compared to, like we talked previously about the power conduits in the lunar mission, which really do feel like you're just sitting there going like, bam, okay, bam, okay. And now I got to shoot the one right next to it. That I feel like it was much better paced in the Thorian fight itself.
And the fact that the creepers wake up in a staggered pattern. So like if you take a couple shots, a few of them will wake up. Like, so that kind of, it makes you kind of have to split your attention a little bit, which is good.
Yeah. And it feels more dynamic, feels like more of an alive fight. I like that. As much as I ragged on Feros up until this point, I actually do really quite like this one particular section of Feros. I think the Thorian is a fun creature. I like the what led up to the layer where you're trying to save the civilians if you choose to. That works well. And then once you've killed it, Shiala, the Asari who had been given over to the creeper by Saren, comes back out, and you get to have a conversation with her, where she explains, what Saren had been there for and and then she gives you the cipher, which is additional information. Basically, they unlock more of your vision from the beacon. Although I have to remark that the Embrace Eternity thing, where that the Asari do when they're going to do like their mind meld, it's at some point in my brain, I'd sort of forgotten that was like a platonic thing. I kind of remembered it being just Liara, whoever did that. And so it was a little bit like, wait, isn't this like Asari sex? Oh, no, wait, that's different. This is a mind meld. Oh, okay. This isn't, we're not just going to bone down here in the middle of this goop pile.
Oh, yeah. I seem to remember like definitely having that same feeling. Like, is he just like banging every Asari to get information? Like, what's going on?
I do. It's got to be platonic, because I remember that even if you don't romance Liara at all, by the time she does do that with you on a couple of occasions. So it's like, okay, this is just a thing that Asari do. It's not like romantic necessarily, but it seems pretty fucking intimate. It's just a little bit weird. And speaking of, when you go back to the ship, I'm not going to consider this a spoiler, because it's literally what happens the next time you go back to the Normandy when you have your conversation. Then Liara does the same thing. Like she does a mind meld with you to like get the information out of your head. Although if I remember correctly, it doesn't really get her anywhere. She doesn't really know much more than you do, apparently.
Yeah, it just makes her tired. I
like Shiala as a concept of a character who, like, she apparently had been a follower of Matriarch Benezia, and was like whole hog in on, being a servant to the Matriarch. And then when Saren is like, I need an Asari, I need somebody with mind powers to like go inside the Thorian so that I can talk to it. Here, random ass Asari, you get to go in it. And like the process of being handed over to the Thorian also expunges her indoctrination. Have we talked about indoctrination yet?
We actually learn a bit about it in speaking with Shiala.
Okay, so she explains it. So that like the ship overtakes people as they are near it, and it gives them, makes them want to follow Saren. And then the Thorian's mind control seems to have overwritten that, so that when we then kill the Thorian, it leaves Shiala with her free will for the first time in some quite amount of time. That's kind of cool. I like the fact that she immediately is like, well, I fucked things up for the Jews Hope people, so I'm going to stay here and help trying to like rebuild them. She's cool. I like her.
So one of the problems I had with this, and it was something I've kind of talked about in the past, is just like, so I run basically with Garrus and Liara for my missions. And it really bothers me that she doesn't react at all whenever like anyone's talking about Benezia. Like she's just like, not even like a voice line like, hey, that's my mom, or like she did what?
Yeah. I feel like that's a thing that in Mass Effect 2, they would have, if they had done this same plot line by then, they would have figured it out and been able to put more of that in. Yeah. But yeah, it is a little bit lacking. We have to chalk it up to just maybe they didn't have enough time with the voice actor to have, not more, or we'll probably have to do with order of how things were done. Like the voice lines get recorded relatively early. By the time they get to the point where this is noticed that like she'll be on some of these missions and not saying anything at various times, it's a little bit too late to bring the voice actor back in to record more lines and to then code it. I can understand how that kind of stuff could get missed, but yeah, it is a shame. It is absolutely a shame because it seems like she should be more active in that part of the plot because it's her mom, you know. There's also a little bit of, we'll get into this. Well, no, that's the Noveria section. Never mind. We're not going to talk about that at all today. I'm with you on that one. That she seems a little too blasé about the whole Benezia thing.
This is more just kind of a note about the gameplay with the creepers, but it's really satisfying just constantly knocking them down. As you know, I'm playing a sniper character, and I'm really bad at getting headshots.
Okay.
So I'll do a lot of body shots, and every time you hit a creeper, it just falls over. So you're just kind of just creating like this domino effect as these creepers rush at you.
I'll tell you what's satisfying is if you have the thorium gas grenade equipped, it blows up the creepers in a huge radius. So especially that, I think the very first thing that you do when you like open the garage door and there's just like a field of them and they pretty much all activate at once, throwing a single grenade into the middle of that crowd and blowing them all to fucking smithereens in a single blow, that feels great. It's kind of a waste of a grenade if you're trying to save the colonists, but it does feel, it's got real good game feel.
Oh yeah.
They blow up good. They have a nice splatter like sprite or something or particle effect that shows up whenever you blow them up. It's like, yeah, that's good. I want more of that.
Yes.
I do wish they had been a little bit less reskinned husks. I completely understand why they do it. I kind of like their design, but it seems just a little bit late. Like if I hadn't noticed that they were reskinned husks, it wouldn't bother me. I like the design independent of that, but the moment that I saw that starts to bug me. Like where I'm like, these like, I see where you're cutting the corners. Like I wish you could have changed it just a little bit more or something like that. To maybe give them a different run speed or a different run animation or like change their outline enough that it's not quite so obvious that you've just thrown a new texture on top of the old, this old model. But I do like them.
Yeah, I think I think it's probably more apparent through their animations than their textures because they use the exact same.
Yeah, that's the
exact same animation palette.
Yeah. Like if they had just changed them to maybe quadrupedal instead of bipedal, like give them like even if they had reused like the run animation from the Geth, what are they called? The little things that like creep on the walls, stalkers, the Geth stalkers. If they had like used a different, and obviously you can't just reuse a animation from a different model necessarily, but if they had done something like, I like the design, I like what they do, I like the way they impact on the gameplay, but we end up fighting so many husks that these things also act a lot like husks. And that is just enough of it to like break my suspension of disbelief just a little bit. I start to think about the game as a game as opposed to, like again, this is the kind of thing that like I'm holding the game to a very high standard here. And I'm also holding it to a standard from 15 years down the road. But nonetheless, I still wish they had been able to do a little bit more there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. It's definitely one of those things that kind of reminds you that you're playing a game rather than being immersed in this story.
Yeah, for sure. Do you know if I've never not done all, or not that I can remember. I seem to have always remembered doing all of the various like prequel quests, the things that you're doing to help Shoes Hope out with. I wonder, is there a way like, I wonder if it's any different if you don't do that. Like if you just say, fuck you guys, I'm going to go on and like you guys can handle your own shit. And then like do they have different dialogue options at the end of that mission where they're like, well, I guess the planet, you know, you've saved us from the Geth, but our colony's still fucking doomed. And you're just like, peace, I'm going. I guess if you were playing,
I don't know.
If you're playing that kind of playthrough, it's quite likely that you'll have killed everybody. So maybe there wouldn't be anybody left to even remark on these things.
I'm just imagining you killing everybody and then going and doing the side quests, like turning the water on after.
They have to have like turned off that stuff, but I would so kind of want to go try it now just to see what happens. I do know, because I've had it happen, where you can end up in a situation where like you've killed all of the colonists and you just like leave Shiala there. She's like, I'm going to stay here and help, I guess. And you're like, the place is fucking empty. I killed absolutely everyone. Have fun with that. And then you bomb off in the Normandy. Okay. Well, do you want to move on to Shadow Broker Files?
Sure.
All right.
Shadow Broker Files.
Is it just me, or isn't Shiala green in Mass Effect 2?
She absolutely is. This is a thing where they let her come out as blue. I am assuming because they wanted to make it clear that this was just the regular Shiala now. But then in Mass Effect 2, she's back to being green. I'm assuming so they're like, it's very clear, hey, this is the one from the Thorian. Like this is the same chick.
Yeah.
And she has a bit of dialogue where she says, oh yeah, a few weeks after I came out, my skin all turned green. Just kind of inexplicably, because I was in contact with a Thorian. As a few years down the road from that, my response would have been to the writer who wrote that was to say, no, she liked being green and purposefully underwent cosmetic surgery to become green. That says more about the character, that like she's like, you know what? I still feel like a bit of me is green. I want a bit more Kermit in my life, and I'm just gonna go like to a plastic surgeon on Ilium and turn myself like dark forest green.
See, I would have gone with the route where they hint that, you know, this isn't actually Shiala. This is actually another clone.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Thorian didn't die.
Oh, that's rad. Yeah. We're like, yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. Or maybe that like the Thorian did die, but it had already created Shiala clones and they didn't necessarily die.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of left like they had been, you know, a part of a larger consciousness, and now they're left on their own as a sort of newbie, a newborn baby. Who like, what do you do? Like, how do you do with the life when there's like multiples of you and like somebody is already out there being Shiala? Like, who do you be? Like, who are you supposed to be?
Yeah.
That's one of those plots that it happens a couple of times. It happens on Star Trek. It happens on Protean City, which is a podcast I was on. It happens in various places where like a double of a person will be made, or like multiples of that person will be made. And then they but they very rarely properly address how fucking weird that is to be afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like the idea that like there could be multiple people who are all created off of the same template is fun and interesting. And I'd love to see like the psychological fallout of it.
Oh yeah. That whole cloning thing is such a can of worms.
I think it can make some very fun moments. This is just RPG story time, but when we did a Masks game, I had the background character of Lonesome Joe, who was
I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a dude who was like low level criminal who had gotten involved in some sort of weird superhero shenanigans and had turned into like a multiplying villain. So he's like a multiplicity guy or whatever. And then but each one of the clones could also multiply. So it turned into like a exponential, like the entire world was going to be overrun with this dude in like a matter of minutes. So they stop him, but they didn't get rid of all of the clones. So now there's like, it went from being one dude to being like 100,000 of this one guy. And then I had a huge description of all of the things that then happened with like the world and his life being completely fucking ruined by there being 100,000 of him. Like they all show up at his favorite bar and basically a riot breaks out because they don't like each other. And then like it burns the place down, and like none of them can have bank accounts because the other ones always guess the passwords to it and clean them out.
They've all ruined each other's credit scores.
Yeah, they've all ruined it. And everybody hates Lonesome Joes because they've already met a Lonesome Joe and they're all kind of assholes. So like the moment that one of them shows up, you're like, no, get out. Fuck you.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting, like taking a look at like the fallout of having an ability like that is always very interesting.
Yeah. But that would be cool to see Shiala's clones, the green Asari clones, show up and be like, hey, I'm also a person. How do I deal with this? Like being alive? Can I get a social security number?
Sorry, I'm green.
I think I will reiterate. I think green looks great on the Asari. I really like the way she all
I
looks.
absolutely agree.
It makes me a little bit wish that they had gone for a wider color palette for the Asari, and just like I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna say I understand why they did it. I don't understand. Like they very could have easily have gone everywhere from like a light, sky blue down to a dark blue to maybe like a purplish color to maybe a more teal. Like having that color variation amongst the Asari, I think would have made them more easily identifiable as individuals, and it would have just made a crowd of them look really cool. You'd see all this like range of colors. Would have been really nice. I'd have loved to have seen that just from a visual standpoint.
Yeah, no, I feel like there was definitely some missed opportunity having seen green Asari. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I think she just has like one of the better designs of the Asari I've seen.
Her little designs around her eyes, little markings, look great. Like like Shiala's cooler, a little bit of the Nihilist syndrome, where like this is a cool character design who got used on kind of a minor character. I like to a certain respect, I like her more than Venezia. Like I like her more than like a bigger character. I kind of like her more than the consort as well. Like she's also, it doesn't hurt that she's wearing like the strappy leather fucking commando suit, which is like that's not unique to her. Several other models in the game use that, but it's a good fucking look, and it's very, very Matrix. Reminds me a lot of some of the costumes in the Matrix. So yeah, we will see her later on. She shows back up on Mass Effect 2. She's on Ilium, and they're trying to deal with like a legal dispute that the exogeny colonists are having. And also, I think they mentioned it in 2. They definitely talk about it in 3, that the colonists retain some amount of a collective consciousness after the Thorian is dealt with. That they're all sort of kind of in each other's heads because they still have the spores within them. That's also really cool. That's another one of those things where they mention it a little bit. They talk about it a little bit. Apparently it gives them a boost to like like working as teams, and you are able to use that as your war assets in Mass Effect 3. That's helpful. But like, wouldn't you love to just like have a conversation with these dudes about what their fucking life is like now? Like that, like they all kind of share a consciousness. That's rad. Like that's a really neat idea.
Yeah, I feel like there's there's an opportunity for like the short stories of all the people that Shepard's met, like kind of World War Z style, where it's just kind of from a different perspective each time.
Tales of Jabba's Palace, right? We've talked about before. Well, we talked about it on Mass Effect, on Monster Mechanics, but there was a whole thing where Star Wars for a while would just release books that were short stories of background characters from the world at large.
Yeah.
And like, fuck, man, I'd read that shit. For some Mass Effect stuff. Yeah. That's the kind of thing where if somebody came to me and said, I would like to make a television show in the Mass Effect universe, my response would be like, let's do that version of it, where it's like small stories in the world at large with background characters moving from one to another, rather than trying to tell Shepard's story, which is kind of maybe too big for a television show. The moment that I said that, of course, the studio would, the channel or network or whatever would be like, no, fuck you, you're fired. You're never working here again. Because that's a terrible idea for us for like business reasons, but it would be the one that I would make.
Yeah.
But like, it would be such a cool opportunity to expand and show more of the Mass Effect universe, which I'm interested in. I want to see more of all of these places. So is there anything else we want to cover here? The Thorian, unfortunately, I mean, like, doesn't really come back. The people of Zhu's Hope do, but the Thorian is fucking dead. Like, we're not going to get more of them. Let's see.
I want to say there was like a nod to it in the third one, like maybe like a second Thorian was found or something.
Maybe. I don't remember anything
like
about
it was just like a little war asset thing, if I remember correctly.
You get the Zhu's Hope one, I think, but
maybe, yeah.
Yeah. There was the thing that I had to talk about. Oh yeah. So did you, as much as I like the Thorian and this whole thing, did you feel a little bit like, what the fuck is the cipher and how did this help me? Like,
yeah, a little bit. Like,
okay,
it was like, oh yes, it gives you like, or more like it felt like, like it had no real impact. Like, this is the collected memory of the Protheans, and then like we're still surprised at what a Prothean looks like, and like, he doesn't immediately point at the collectors in Mass Effect 2 and be like, those are fucking Protheans. What the fuck?
Yeah. It feels like they really talked up this cipher thing, and then it doesn't go anywhere. And like, even when you show the cipher to Liara, who is an archaeologist who specializes in Prothean ruins and like the Prothean like technology and culture and stuff, and you give it to her and she's like, I can't tell you anything about it. This isn't all that helpful. I'm just tired now. I'm going to go back and like take a nap. And you're like, wouldn't this be like the career defining moment for you, Liara? Like, wouldn't this be like like I could see her being like, holy shit, I got to rewrite my entire thesis right now. And like just leaving, being like, I got to like, give me an entire pot of coffee. I'm going to start churning out academic papers or something. Because shouldn't this be a ton of information? And instead it's just like, oh no, that's not helpful at all. Anyway, bye.
Yeah. One of the, actually, this is a little bit tiny spoilers for Andromeda, but you actually find some like basically like observation logs from Liara that are kind of narrated by the voice actress for Liara. And it's just like from her time, like doing exploration of ruins and stuff before she met Shepard and going on her adventures. So you get those little like,
that's cool.
Just her notes on Prothean and stuff.
That's rad. I'm interested in hearing that. Yeah. And I'll always take more Liara. Liara is top tier.
Okay.
So, and yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that kind of covers it. I thought we'd had more to talk about, but I guess we covered more of it in the previous episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that brings us to our character bracket.
Character bracket.
And we are in the doldrums of the character bracket a little bit because today's episode is Shepard's Fish versus Shiala. The Shepherd's Fish is in here a little bit because of numbers and also a little bit because when I thought of it, I thought it was funny. But we will have an opportunity to talk a little bit about the process of owning fish in Mass Effect 2 and or 3. Because we had a lot of discussion about Shiala here. But the fish are in Mass Effect 2, in case you don't know this for some reason, you have a fish tank they revamp the Normandy and make it bigger when they make the Normandy 2. And they convert a little like storage section up in the top to be the captain's quarters, which is bigger now, which is nice. You get a full bed and all that stuff. It's great. But they also put in a fish tank for some fucking reason. I don't really quite understand why. Because it's not like, that's not just like a water storage tank that they're going to then use for like, showers and shit, because you're going to fill it with goddamn fish. You can't do that with your clean water. Anyway. And then you can go to, as you roam around the universe, you can go and, collect fish. And it's interesting. I'm not completely against like collection games like that, where you can gather some of them up. The thing almost everybody will remember is you have to go feed your fish periodically, otherwise they will all die. And if you are friendly enough with your I don't know what she is. She's some sort of attaché, Kelly Chambers. You can get her to feed your fish for you. And if you have gotten them all to survive to the end of Mass Effect 2, then when you find Kelly Chambers in Mass Effect 3, she will still have your fish and she will give them back to you. And the implication, I've never managed to keep the fucking fish alive. I don't play that game anymore, but like the idea that somebody would go through all of the trouble to get the fish all the way from Mass Effect 2 all the way to the end of Mass Effect 3 is very funny to me.
I've definitely done it once, and yeah, it's very amusing.
It's such a lot of effort for just some fish. I have to say, if your Shepard is the kind of Shepard who gets the fish all the way to the end of Mass Effect 3, all of them alive, that says a lot about like that character, the kind of character who goes out of their way to find fish from around the galaxy, collect them into an aquarium, and keep them alive all this time when the world is literally falling apart around you. That definitely says something about that character. That is when you're going to like Omega or whatever and being like, ooh, fish. Now, that being said, as much as I don't totally get the fish thing, every time I can buy another fucking model ship that I can put in my display cases, I am fucking there. I get more excited about that than weapon upgrades. I'm like, oh, dude, is that a scale model of Destiny Ascension? Yes, please. And as much as I ragged on minigames, if they had a minigame where I got to assemble that thing, like I had to cut all of the various parts off of their sprue and glue them together and paint it in game, that's fucking rad, and I would play the shit out of that.
That was a missed opportunity, BioWare.
An ability for me, instead of... Actually, I wonder, did they put out official model kits?
You do that in Mass Effect 2, and then in Mass Effect 3, you have to kit bash them together to make a new...
Now I really want to know if they like released like model kits for all of those things, because I could be convinced to.
I'm sure they did for the Normandy. The other ships probably.
I mean,
not.
I know they did. Well, here's the thing. I know they did like you can buy just like a statue of the Normandy. They made some good ones. But what I specifically want is where it comes on the sprue. It comes out all like in pieces, and then I have to like glue them together. Like, that is.
You want your Gundam kit or whatever.
Yeah, I want to do a little bit. You know, I want to get out the. Yeah, no, they didn't do it as far as I can tell. You can buy Normandy. You can buy various other ships. The closest they've got is they've got some Lego versions, I think, or somebody made a Lego version. I don't know if that's official or not. Sometimes that's just a thing that people do. But well. Maybe I do own a 3D printer. I bet I could assemble a collection of. This is a terrible idea. I really shouldn't start that process, but they wouldn't be that. I'd have to get you to print them for me on your nicer 3D print or your SLA one, because I've got the FDM one, they wouldn't look. The surface quality just wouldn't be there. We're completely off the rails now. So this is where I mentioned offhand that I printed for his birthday one year. I printed Zach a Mass Effect. I forget exactly which model it was. It was one of the hand cannons.
I think it was the Predator.
Yeah. No, it's the Carniflex. That sounds right.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
The Carnifex.
It was basically like the default pistol that you always see Shepard whip out in cutscenes.
Yeah. It was an M6. An M6 Carnifex heavy pistol from Mass Effect 2 and 3. Yeah. That was fun. I still have all those files. I should make another one for myself. Okay. Well, we don't need to talk too much about Shiala because we literally like spent several minutes of the earlier part of this episode talking about how cool she was and that we like her. Is that cool enough to overrun the fish? Did the fish manage to squeak it out just by being like more present in the series? Like they do get a lot more screen time.
Fair, yeah. I don't know. I'm going to vote for Shiala. I feel like she left more of an impression on me than the fish did.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. I think we're gonna have to give it to Shiala. It would have been fun. It would have been really funny if we'd taken the fish to the next round. But I think we've said as much about them as we could possibly do at this point. Yeah. I think we're gonna go to Shiala. But like, and she's cool. Like, I like her.
I could definitely see Shepard's fish becoming a meme choice for our listeners. But
I don't know what reward I could give our listeners, but if they manage to get Shepard's Fish to win the entire fan bracket, that would be hilarious. They absolutely should try to do that. But if I could reward them in some way, if I could entice them with some sort of carrot, I would, but I have no idea what that would be. All right. Well, in that case, I think we are finished for today. Thank you for joining us for our run through Feros.
So are we hitting Noviria next then? Or are we doing some side quests?
I think we're probably going to end up doing some side quests. It matters a little bit, what you guys want to do on your end, because I kind of follow along with you.
Sure.
And we may or may not have guests as well. I have people like that are sort of soft locked into being part of being guests here. I need to actually schedule that. This is what happens when you put the person who has social anxiety in charge of like getting guests and scheduling things with strangers. Anyway.
Well, I'm no better there.
Yeah. All right.
Probably worse even.
All right. Well, in that case, we will catch you guys next week.
All right. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the N7 Project. If you would like to read the upcoming playthrough roadmap, there is a link in the show notes below. We can be found on Twitter as @N7Project, at our website, masseffectpodcast.com, or via our Discord, scottpaladin.com/Discord. If you'd like to support the podcast, honestly, the easiest way to be to write us a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or your podcatcher of choice. We read every one of those, and it gives us a real boost every time, and it helps people find the podcast. Or if you want to give monetary support, all funds to our Patreon, patreon.com/monsterpod, will also go to supporting this podcast. Mass Effect, its associated characters, sounds, plot points, whatever, are copyright by some giant faceless corporation. The N7 Project was produced and edited by me, Scott Paladin, and hosted by myself and my best friend, Zach Jakeways. Audio is copywritten 2022, Scott Paladin. This has been a Library of Cursed Knowledge production.